Over the years, I've collected tons of retro video games from Nintendo, Sega, and PlayStation, and this isn't even everything that I have. I have stuff in another room too. Today I'm going to show you the favorite items that I have in my collection, and there's a lot to go over, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off with one of the first games I've ever owned, The Legend of Zelda. You might be saying, Matt, what's the big deal? It's just an NES game, everyone has those. This is my original copy from the 80s, and I think it still saves. Let's test it out. I got the game in there now, and I'm going to hit start, and we can see. So it does still save. However, these are not the files that I've had since I was a little kid. These have been updated. Sadly, those files are long gone, but just the fact that it still saves is pretty cool. There's a handful of other games I've had since my childhood, maybe 10 in total, including these. Super Mario Bros., F-Zero, and Super Mario Kart, and I still remember why this little peel is here. When I was a kid in school, I was trying to peel off this label because I thought it looked so cool. And then as I was peeling it, I was going to put it in my binder, and then I realized that it wasn't really coming off, so I just decided to push it back on. And these Nintendo Power magazines are special to me because I've also had these since my childhood. I threw away a bunch when I was leaving my house in the early 2000s, but I did keep 4 or 5, and these are the ones that I have, including, of course, the Super Mario Bros. 3 guide, and the original Nintendo Power, the first one, issue number 1 that came out in 1988. I don't want to give it all my personal information, but check it out. It actually has my name on the back along with my address where I used to live when I was younger. Here's something I picked up a few years ago at a garage sale. Let's take a look at what's inside. This really cool Game Boy carrying case, and when I opened it up and looked at what was inside, I knew I really wanted to have this item. And the reason this is special to me is because when you look at these old collections from random people, you kind of can get a view into what kind of stuff they're into. Like you see this had the Game Boy along with these 4 games. Legend of Zelda DX, Alleyway, Super Mario Land, and Tetris. And these are 4 of the best games on the system. So I was really excited to see this. I don't think I tested the Game Boy until later when I got home, but I remember that it looked great. Let's see what happens when I boot it up. Sometimes the screen gets all messed up on these things, but you see this screen looks really clear. So this was an awesome pickup for me. This is another one of my favorite things I want to show you from my collection. It may just look like a regular GBA, but now you can see it's actually a special edition NES Game Boy Advance that came out back in 2005 or 2006. And I remember getting this at GameStop. I saw it in the display case. And I saw that it looked just like the NES controller that I have laying here. I knew I had to grab it, and I've had it ever since, and it still works great. Let's go ahead and turn it on. I think I have a Kirby game in there, and you'll see it'll boot right up and it'll play. The next thing I want to show you is a really recent addition to my collection, and that's the Game Boy printer. I've always wanted these since I was smaller and I first saw them in the magazines, and I finally have one in my collection, so let's quickly go over how this works. You actually need quite a few things to get these to work, including a Game Boy camera, a Game Boy printer, and then you also need the cable to connect the Game Boy to the Game Boy printer. Oh, you're going to need lots of batteries too, because this thing takes 6 AA batteries that go right here. Okay, the red lights indicate that everything is powered on. Let's go ahead and start the game, and we can shoot a picture. So I'm going to do that right now by just waving, hitting A, and then hitting save. Now we're going to go back, and we're going to go back again to View, Album, and let's see if I can find the picture that I just took. It looks like it's down here. So I'm going to select it, and then if you hit up, you'll see I have the option to print. So let's go ahead and print. Printing error, that's not good. Okay, the cord wasn't plugged in all the way. Let's see if that fixes it. Print. Transferring means it's working, so that's good. And it's printing. The Game Boy printer is printing out the picture that I just took a few minutes ago. And now that it's done, I can go ahead and rip off this sheet. And this used to come with this sticky paper, but I don't have that anymore, so this is just regular paper. So you could actually put these, stick these onto things. This is just regular paper, but that's pretty cool, huh? Now this is all 1990s technology, so it may seem pretty archaic by today's standards, but back in the day, this thing was awesome. A few years ago, all the gaming companies were coming out with these mini consoles. Here's a 2 from Nintendo. Sega came out with one. But let me tell you why the TurboGrafx 16 Mini is one of the favorite things in my collection. When I was younger, I had a friend that had a TurboGrafx 16 with 2 games, but the system overall was a big mystery to me. So it wasn't until I got the Mini a few years ago that I discovered all these cool 16-bit games that I missed out on when I was a kid. One of the cool things about the TurboGrafx 16 controller is the standard controller actually has turbos built into it, so you can pretty much use turbo on any game that you want. You'll see the interface is really slick, and the cool thing about this Mini is that when you go down here, you can actually switch to the PC Engine games, which is like the Japanese version of the TurboGrafx 16. Some of my favorite games on this mini system are these Bonk games. Bonk is the mascot, or was the mascot for the TurboGrafx 16, so he was kind of like their Mario. And these games are a lot of fun because Bonk is like this prehistoric character who just basically bonks enemies with his head to hurt them. I just mentioned PC Engine, and I actually do have one from Japan that I ordered a few years ago, and I want to show you something really cool about this console. You might be thinking that the PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 came with cartridges as games, but that's not the case. Although a lot of game consoles at the time did come in cartridges, PC Engine games were these like credit card sized Hue cards, and this is actually the game on here. And these Hue cards would just slide up into the console, make a really satisfying click, and that, along with the quality of these games, makes it one of my favorite things from my collection. I have a lot of other cool stuff to show you guys, so if you like this video, let me know and I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching and have a great day.